And of course, we have a man on the line. Yes, we had him before, but we had some challenges and weren't able to have him long enough. But I'm telling you, we might have to have him more often. We're talking about the father of the Office of Disaster. Well, I don't think he was called that name then, but he will tell you that he was in charge of 3 government agencies. And I must tell you, we didn't have a disaster then. No, we didn't. No, we had disaster, but I'm talking about him running 3 government offices. Good morning, Mr. Franklin McDonald. How are you this morning? But we intend to speak with him because he has a wealth of knowledge, and we believe that persons who have served, some of them have retired and so on, that we need to hear from them, give us their perspective and hear from them what they did, and share that learning experience with us. Because when it comes to disasters right across the world, we never stop learning. There's always something new to learn, and we think especially of those persons in Clarendon. And I must tell you, I'm now hearing of how persons out there have now invested in solar energy, and some are now able to provide charging facilities for persons out there to use their cell phones. I understand that they're doing good business. I must tell you, I mentioned on air recently about kerosene refrigerators. You never hear about that one. Yeah, but I use kerosene oil. And I said to myself, we shouldn't throw away those things, They should still manufacture them, because if you have a problem, you could still be able to keep things cold in those refrigerators. I wonder if anybody still have a kerosene oil refrigerator. It has nothing where, it looks like, what do they call it again? You have a kitchen bitch? Oh, so the too young, you know what is kitchen bitch. But it's a little container, metallic thing, and it has a sort of cloth-like material, and they put kerosene oil in it, and then you light it, and that will serve as a light. Well, you have something like that in the kerosene oil refrigerators, and that's at the bottom. But apparently that heat does something and generates whatever it needs to generate to keep that, I think it's called a coolant or whatever it is called, to keep the refrigerator cool. It wasn't as efficient as a modern-day refrigerator, but it worked very well. Another thing that we probably need to invest in is satellite phones. I know ARPEM has its own communication system, right? So probably the Office of Disaster Preparedness need to look at the whole time something them, dash with them, and we can bring them back. I must tell you, I saw a stove in Grenada. I saw a gentleman with a stove. It's really a camping stove actually. It uses other gas that you use in motor cars. And it reminds me of the tilly lamp? Lord of mercy. Younger folks wouldn't even know it's a tilly lamp. But a tilly lamp uses kerosene oil, and it has what they call a mantle. And then it has a little needle needle where the mantle comes over. You pump it up, and it sprays a very thin layer of oil over that mantle. And of course, he's on now. Mr. Franklin McDonald.
Hello.
So when you're old like me.
Yes, good morning.
How you know? I was telling them how to turn you on, make fashion, and telling them about kerosene oil stove. I know you would know about that because you weren't born at that time.
Yes, Brennan. Thank you for being patient this morning.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I heard you making reference to the good old days, which in some cases were not so good.
Yes. But the kerosene oil fridge work well, no? Not as efficient as the modern day one. We probably need to go back, have some put on, so whenever we have a disaster, we can go back to those.
Well, I think many of those traditional methods have to be brought back into use when we get impacted by earthquakes and hurricanes.
Yes.
So it's very important for us not to totally let go of those old traditional methods of surviving without the GPS power or without the internet.
Right.
But it doesn't mean they replace those modern conveniences.
Yes. But I mentioned, if you heard when I mentioned about that that stove, it uses the ordinary gas which a motor car uses. And you just simply pump it up, and it converts that gas into very thin, almost air. And when you light that, I think it's just like a normal gas stove. And that is something I think we need to look at. I haven't seen it here. I saw it in Grenada, and they use it for camping purposes. So we need to look at these things. So when we have a disaster, we can use these things. And when I heard about the solar fans being used in Clarendon and those places. By the way, that many persons believe that the hurricane did pass to Jamaica. I wonder why this is so, frankly.
Well, you're asking a whole set of questions. To deal with the hurricane issue, which may be most urgent, there is no doubt that the parishes of Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland experience hurricane-force winds. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion to do with the eye of the hurricane and the effects of the hurricane. The most damaging recent hurricane in Jamaica's history, going back over the last, let's say, take the years since independence, was undoubtedly Flora.
That's in the 60s.
Flora, 1963, the year after independence.
Yes.
So in Hurricane Flora, the eye was never close to Jamaica.
Really?
But we had 3 weeks of rain.
Whoa, yes.
Agriculture was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Kingston was cut off on the east at the Hope River, on the north by the Wagwater River at Moneyhole Corner.
Yes.
And we may want to talk about why Moneyhole Corner has that name.
Yes, why?
On the west by the Rio Cobre.
Yes.
Durban, it inspired a young man named Michael Manley.
Yes.
In the following year to lie down at various traffic points and block traffic.
Which included JBC.
That was his first step into fame.
Yes.
Because he had seen what Flora had done the year before.
Yes.
So, you could cut off Kingston by just cutting off 3 roads.
Yes.
And many who knew him knew that it was a lesson he took very seriously.
Yes.
So let's go back to brutal Beryl. Beryl devastated CARICOM, Union Island, and the nearby islands of St. Vincent and Grenada.
Grenadines, right?
Let's pause for a moment. CARICOM was a population of 10,000 at the most. Grenada and St. Vincent, and between them, have a population of about 280,000.
Right.
The parishes in Jamaica affected: Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland have an aggregate population of something like 2 or 3 times the population of the Eastern Caribbean islands, severely impacted.
Almost.
Can I just add one other important thing for the public to know of?
Yes.
In Jamaica, at all lighthouses, seaports, and airports, there are systems, I believe, maintained by the port, airport, and meteorological offices of Jamaica. There are systems that allow you to say to your Google device, what is the wind speed at so-and-so? So you can right now turn to your Google device and say, what is the wind speed at the Morant Point Lighthouse? It will tell you. It also works for Rocky Point, Black River, and the Grill.
Right.
On the afternoon of a hurricane, I did that to those stations. And between about 3 and 5 p.m., Rocky Point and Black River reported wind speeds between 150 and 200 kilometers per hour.
200 kilometers per hour?
If you do it, I have not yet seen that in the Met Office report, which I'm sure is coming out. So that those, since I know you are an amateur radio fan.
Yes. We're talking about the ham radio
threshold
operators.
is 73 miles per hour. 150 to 200 kilometers an hour is bordering on twice those speeds. So no one should be surprised that it's taking a long time for the JPS and the cell towers to come back.
Yes.
Because such wind speeds, if they can be confirmed by the Met Office, and it's their instrument I'm quoting, are well in excess of the design speeds for the facilities and buildings we put up in those areas. Mm-hmm. So the first point I want to make, Vernon, is in looking at disasters, you need to look at numbers. How much rain fell? What wind speed was experienced?
Yes.
What sea conditions in terms of height of sea level and height of the waves were experienced? I have been asking for those numbers since the hurricane passed. I have not yet seen them in an official report.
Well,
no.
We have to go for the break. We have to go for the break now. We're not go for the break and come back. Okay. This program is being recorded and will be sent to the relevant persons and asking them questions. Of course, you have asked me other questions before, and I've gotten some answers. That's a few. All right, we're talking to Franklin McDonald. Man is retired, but we saw the energy cannot, the knowledge cannot be retired. And that's why we're happy to have him, especially at this time. We're going to go for the break. Yes, this is Spot On with Vernon Darby. Soon come back. Don't move. Welcome back. You're listening to Spot On with Vernon Darby, coming to you live from Kingston, Jamaica, right here in the middle of the Caribbean, here, the beautiful Caribbean area, where we say we little but we Talawa. And my very special guest is Franklin McDonald, the former head of ODPEM. Oh, yes. And he knows quite a bit. And he is leading us to think about things that many of us are not thinking about. Franklin, glad to have you back. You mentioned some very serious points there about the wind speed up to 200 kilometers per hour. And you want to give us that site now where we can get that wind speed at any point in time of a hurricane, because we can't just think that because the eye did not pass over Jamaica, then we didn't have a hurricane.
Thanks, Dermot. Sorry, Vernon. The fact of the matter is, both the Met Office and the ODP for some time have been pointing out to the public that the hurricane is much more than the eye.
Yes.
So it's important to remember that. But can I make another point about hurricanes as a matter of general public education?
Yes.
When the Met Service gives you their information, it's based on what I will loosely call open field conditions.
Yes.
When you wrap a hurricane around the topography of Jamaica, as you know, Vernon, the wind speed changes. So if the wind is being forced up a valley, there is a phenomenon effect known as funneling.
Right.
So that the Met Office data is based on assumed conditions at or near sea level in open conditions. So Jamaicans need to remember that once you wrap the hurricane around the topography of Jamaica, Jamaica is a mountainous country.
Right.
The hurricane winds do things inside of valleys.
Wow, yes.
Like funneling. And it does things when it pops over the ridges, like at Stony Hill. So based on our knowledge of past hurricanes, we know that there are going to be places where the wind is concentrated, either by funneling or by the ridge effect, where it pops over the ridge and the hurricane speeds in those areas are different from the hurricane speeds in the Met Office forecast.
Okay.
Now, back in the 1980s, as you know, I worked in the region on this issue. And we actually got some of the wind tunnels in Canada, one at University of Western Ontario, to actually simulate the topography, put in the wind tunnel a model of different Caribbean islands, and it did show quite conclusively what the variations of the wind speed could be.
Yes.
So it is no surprise that if you have an extreme wind on the coast, where I quoted you some measurements which came from the port, airport, and lighthouse instrumentation maintained by the Met Office. When you project that onto the topography of Jamaica, some areas will be sheltered and some areas will be exposed to different wind speeds from the open conditions.
Yes, yes.
And I think we are seeing some of that in effect being reflected in the damage, including toppled light poles, toppled cell towers, etc., and fallen vegetation, removal of the roofs of houses, including modern houses, removal of the wider span roofs in schools and churches. Here is a challenge that now presents in the restoration and reconstruction. If indeed the wind speeds exceeded the designed wind speeds in the building code of Jamaica, in building back better, we now need to make some adjustments, because in that same new building code are provisions that buildings and structures of ordinary use and of higher value can have differentiated standards.
Right.
We have always assumed that cell towers, light poles, buildings important to water, emergency response, deserve to be designed to higher standards.
And schools and those places which we use as shelters.
Okay, let's take shelters in a slightly different way, though.
Okay.
So again, I have been asking people like you, where are the wind speeds? And then what decisions need to be made now? The other question we need to answer, Vernon, is how did the alternate energy arrangements do? How did the wind farms based on solar do? I have heard an anecdotal report that a wind farm in St. Elizabeth had very little damage. Is that true?
I have heard a word.
You know,
I sent a message.
Well, you see, Vernon, these are important bits of transient data to capture.
But let me tell you how we function. Hold on, one Franklin. And I'm saying this out the pause that we can hear. I've sent out messages, probably about 100 or 200, to relevant persons to update us. There are only a few. It's what you get are PR information. You don't get information as to status of certain things. And you just, I've received from the ordinary citizens have been sending me reports, and you get from like ODPEB and so on. But other agencies ought to give us even a few, probably 2 minutes report as to what's happening. That you're very right about that wind is Wigton, I think. Yeah, I haven't heard anything official on that one.
Well, Vernon, let me maybe in the aftermath of an event like Beryl, we need to be very objective with our assessment.
Yes.
The Eastern Caribbean Islands and Jamaica, in the eyes of many people, did surprisingly well. We had the largest, most powerful historic hurricane to enter the Caribbean. Whether it's this time of the year or any time of the year, this was an unprecedented event.
Yes.
And the Caribbean Islands did well at protecting life and limb.
Right.
We did not do well at protecting essential services and livelihoods.
Right.
So we need to look back at this last 50 years of initiatives to do with disaster preparedness and not beat up ourselves, but to recognize we have made some advances and we need to continue and make more. You brought up the matter of shelter. And here we touch upon another matter which you brought up, the matter of how quickly we can do objective assessments. culturally, and I'm not speaking to you from literally going to many shelters the day after an event. Vernon, we need to understand our own culture. Culturally, Jamaicans do not like to go into shelter.
Yes, sir, I know that.
No. Well, then we need to stop fighting our culture.
Yes.
That's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We would rather sleep in the piece of the kitchen that's left from the house than go into a shelter.
Boy, you know it. You know it.
No. Well, I am telling you from experience.
Yes.
When I was involved in this matter personally, on the day after, I would be in Mavis Bank or in somewhere where things happen.
Yes.
Because our instinct is to fix quickly. And we are not patient of government taking a week to do an assessment and then deciding how to fix the roof. In the middle of the hurricane, we start fixing our roof. That's a Jamaican cultural trait, Vernon. The man stuck on Morant Keys or Petra Keys is not panicking. He's tying himself to a tree. The Higland Coronation Market knows she can go on the roof and tie herself down. So we need to stop fighting ourselves and recognize that there are people all over the country who will respond not to instruction, but to detailed information about the possible circumstances. They can make informed decisions about their own safety.
Yes.
And as I say very gently, let's try to understand our cultural makeup and recognize that. We are an extremely resilient people. And part of that resilience is an ability to make decisions about safety if we are given the appropriate information. So I'm not denying the role of structured information, but it should be married to things like what's the wind speed now and what it's going to be? What's the barometric pressure? Did you know of the barometric pressure before the Minister of Finance made a statement about insurance, Vernon?
I want to hear about that insurance thing because I was quite fascinated that the insurance was based on whether the eye pass over a certain percent, like we purchase eye insurance and not hurricane insurance.
So Vernon, do you know the relationship between barometric pressure and wind speed?
No, you must question me. You are here to give information, so you tell us. You give us information.
No. But it was presented to us.
Yes.
But what is it? It's a phone with Google. People in Jamaica need to recognize that the search engine was invented by a Barbadian. It's our instrument. We should be there looking up all these things. If that kind of knowledge is available, we need to avail ourselves of it and use it to inform our recovery from this event, because we have done very well so far.
That is why we have that's why we have it, because I want to tell you, for example, people just getting, I must tell you, not very many persons are au fait with the internet, and that is one thing we need to do. I know we have it in the schools and so on, but that's another challenge. So what I would mind you doing is tell us about some of those sites, and I want to put them out and distribute them in terms of where persons can get information from.
Vernon.
Yes.
Yeah, Vernon, I hear you. There's something called Google. You don't need to know anymore.
Yeah, but no, you do. I will tell you. Hold on.
Vernon.
I tell you do. Let me tell you why. There are many persons, especially my age group and above, they have a phone and all them know is to call a number. So those of us who know, we have to go out and help them. So that's what we have to do.
Vernon, yes. Okay, so let me speak then.
Yeah.
Inside of your smartphone is a function called voiceover. Turn on voiceover and ask the phone a question. What was the wind speed during Beryl in Manchester, Jamaica? It will tell you. It will say it in words. You don't need to read it. Anyway, that's another issue. Why aren't we making full use of all the knowledge with which we are surrounded in this modern age? But
because people don't know.
Let's come back.
They really don't know. That's why a program like this is important, And I must tell you, when I was other places, the program became very, very popular. Because, take for example, there are persons who go on the internet, and I'm talking about business people, qualified people, who are still being scammed. I have a gentleman who lost over 30,000. I'm happy to tell you, because I put it out there and advised people. It made a big, big difference. So we have to understand that some of us will have to do the teaching, the educating, and so on. That's why we have you, to tell people, because so right now some persons probably hearing about Google for the first time. I'm serious.
Vernon, let me make the public aware.
Yes.
I am almost 80 years of age. I'm older than you are.
Yes.
So age, and I'm blind.
Mm-hmm.
Age is not an impediment in understanding, gaining, and sharing knowledge.
I would just before I go there, I can stop you right here. Depends on how well you keep. Give thanks, you are doing pretty well. I have friends who are 60 suffering from dementia. Another problem. So we have to give thanks. That's above us. I have to give thanks that I'm still here. So we have that challenge. A lot of people, when they get older, their brain start to deteriorate. We are lucky that we are still ticking. And you are extremely lucky that you're clicking, my friend. Gonna go for the break. When we come back, we have another 5 minutes, and you can just summarize and mention any new thing you want to mention. Spot on, and the man who's spot on this morning is Franklin McDonald, former head of ODPEM and other agencies in Jamaica. So come back, don't move. Welcome back. You're listening to Spot On with Vernon Darby, coming to you live from Kingston, Jamaica. My very special guest is Franklin McDonald, and him just show off himself. Yeah, man. 180. Man is blind. And I want to tell you about that. Just since him tell you, I will just repeat it. Yeah, the man make himself flexible about. And he's here to help us. Yes, I would love that, and he probably have to come on a few more times. Franklin?
Hi, Vernon.
Let me just tell you from now, you might have to come on a few more times, because I'm telling you.
I'm here.
Quite a number of persons, some things you say, people don't know it. So let me tell you from now, me call you again, because there are many things that you... But I'm going to invite you again, as I tell you. We don't hear you very well, but if you can hear me, just stay online. We want to thank you very much. But just listening to you, let me tell you something. I'm appointing you as lecturer on disaster matters, and I want to let you know that quite a number of persons, even those who lead, they need to learn too, because there are things that you did during your time, which I'm sure we can make good use of. So during this period, we don't know when the next hurricane will come. We will be talking with you.
Vernon, I just wanted to mention that this is an earthquake anniversary day, and I hope people will do some Googling to see what that earthquake did in Jamaica and why we should remember it. Thanks for calling.
Right, and I've appointed you as National Lecturer on Disaster Matters, so I'll be calling you again, because remember I tell you, you say it's easy to Google, but a lot of people don't have a clue, so a lot of us have to learn. So I want to thank you very much. You only touched the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, well, luckily there are multiple pathways to learning, and we need to use all of them.
And radios, and before you go, Frank, I must tell you something, and I hope my other colleagues will use radio more for information. Right now, radio becomes just a noise box. We need to use it more for education. Thank you very much, my brother. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, all the best, and all the best to the people recovering from...
Right.